I'm Melva Brannon, and this was actually my second time to do Strive. I did it like 9 or 10 years ago, and it was a totally different program there. And I will say it's much better, and I really enjoyed it this year. I worked with the U.S. Forest Service and learned about the diversity just within our local district, and there are so many other jobs and things that are not even available here at our Forest Service district. But I did like just seeing the ones here because that helps a lot of our kids tend to stay in this area. We're a rural area and a lot of them don't think about leaving, so they do want to do something that's in this area. And we do have the Sylamore Ranger District here, and that's who I worked with. You can go to the next one. There is all kinds of things going on with the Forest Service, and especially the Sylamore Ranger District, and it's actually a little more unique than most of them, and it's because we have Blanchard Springs Caverns. And when I first started, I started out working with the biologist, and the utility company was putting in a new power line, and it actually went through the forest, but it had to go under the creek. So they had to drill. Well, the area where they were wanting to drill, there was a specific plant that only grew in that area of the forest. And because of that, they actually had to move where they were putting in the power line because they couldn't disturb that plant because there are so many few places that it does grow. Another thing that we have in our cave system, and by the way, that's one reason Blanchard Springs Caverns is closed at the currently is because we have the Indiana bat that uses our cave system, and it is an endangered species. And they're very concerned about the fact that because animals can get COVID also. And they also have the white nose syndrome that's already affected some of the species. It has not affected the Indiana so far in our area, but we have a gray bat that's also in danger of being put on the endangered species list, and it has affected it a lot. So a lot of what the Forest Service really gears, especially the biologist, is to educate the public about all of these things. And a lot of people in our area want to know, well, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And I know one of the people that work with the water company, they were talking about controlled burns. Well, the Forest Service does controlled burns all the time. And a lot of people don't like that idea, but the purpose of that is to keep from having a forest fire. It's to get rid of that fuel on the ground that supplies to have forest fires. I did not get to work with the fire team at the Forest Service because you have to have lots of training to do that, and they're very safety oriented, and I didn't have the time to do it while I was there. But I will say that is the major branch of the Forest Service now, which is, fighting forest fires and keeping, doing prescribed burns so that we don't have those forest fires. Everything in that within the Forest Service will, they all overlap. For instance, they were going to do a prescribed burn in one area, and we actually went out, me and the biologist Eden we had to do a plant survey to ensure that they weren't going to burn some plant that we was not very prevalent in the area. Another thing, the highway department was going to put in a new tile with the drive, in an area, we had to go there and do a plant survey and make sure there were no plants in that area that would be disturbed that shouldn't be. So there's all kinds of things within the Forest Service, and they definitely overlap. I'm really excited about the cave. I got to work with the recreation team, and they maintain the area for the cave and the Blanchard Springs area, which it has campgrounds and a place to swim in the creek, and of course bathroom facilities and everything. But my plan was, and I actually helped them, we went down and cleaned to get ready to reopen the cave, and then COVID went rampant again, and so it got put on hold. But the plan was that the cave was actually going to reopen in September, and then things got bad again. So I did talk to one of the supervisors over the cave about a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that they are hoping that by this summer they will be reopened. I'm hoping so.
1 minute warning.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one then. So my lesson, really, when I first planned my lesson, I had to kind of modify it, because when I first planned it, I taught environmental science. And when I got back to school this year, found out I was not going to be teaching environmental science. So I modified my lesson, and we made it for the chemistry class. And I have a really unique chemistry class this year because it's all girls. Never had that before, but it's really, I mean, it's a good class, and they all work hard. When we did, and the plan also was that the biologist from the Forest Service was going to come and talk to them. Well, because of COVID, that got put on hold. Then we rescheduled, and then we went virtual because of COVID for a while, and we've rescheduled again. And so hopefully she will be coming and talking to them later on. She said she definitely wants to, and I certainly want her to talk to them, because she has worked not only for the Forest Service, but she's worked for several other agencies as a biologist, and just the different things that she has done would be very beneficial for them to see, that different things that biologists can do, and also chemistry that's involved. But my lesson, we did take a pre-test, and their pre-test, one thing we tested was pH of the soil. It was based on what soil is under the trees, and if it affects what trees grow there. They definitely gained knowledge in the post-test, especially about the pH, because the pH that in the pre-test was all over the place. And in the post-test, most of it was 6 and 7, which after we did our pH soil test, in that one graph that I have there is one of the students' actual graph that they made from the different trees. And it all was in the 6 to 7 range, and they were really surprised. Also, I had some questions in both the pre-test and the post-test about other things that they thought affected the soil. And definitely after we had done the lab, they saw that there were a lot more things that affected the soil than what they thought to begin with. So definitely saw growth. I had more questions, but that's just a couple of them that I put on there so you could see that there was growth. But I really enjoyed it, really enjoyed Strive this year.
And Melva was someone who had an opportunity that presented itself to stay longer than the 4-week placement. They had a need, and we had funding available. And so we supported her for an extra 2 weeks, I think it was, for a project that they had.
Yeah, it was 7 days. So yeah.
Week and a half. Yeah. So one of the big takeaways, hopefully, that new and prospective teachers have, and business partners, is that we are very flexible. If you can show us, or help convince us that you're going to benefit student awareness and capability to succeed in these jobs in our communities related to STEM skills, then we are all for making that work.